All right, good morning. Namaste to all of you. So let's start our Sunday class. So if there are any noises from the back and disturbances, just ignore it. Just try to concentrate. So Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bhu Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitra Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Prachayat Asto Ma Satgamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya Mrityorma Amritam Gamya. Om Sena Vavatu Sena Bhunaktu Saviryam Karvavahi Tejasvi Navadhi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti 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 Om. Okay, these we are studying in our Sunday class, Ishavasya Upanishad. And we ended our class with verse number 12 a couple of Sundays ago. And this Rishi is using the word Vidya and Avidya. So he said, first, action as dictated by our desires in order to bring us out of our inertia, tamsikta, into an active mentality of enthusiasm, which is rajsikta. And after, through a pursuit of desireless activity, so first activity with the desires, and then move towards that where there's an activity without any desires. And you can gain purification of your mind. So in other words, purification of the mind will happen only when there's a desirelessness. That also means selflessness. Okay. And intellect, which is, that's how our intellect gets prepared for meditation. Because if there are a lot of selfish desires, a lot of desires just for yourself or material desires, you cannot meditate. You got to cultivate this. And then later on, through diligent meditation, you will gain a fulfillment of knowledge. That is vidya. So first it's avidya. Because of avidya, you have desires. And through this sadhana, you reach towards this kind of a knowledge, this vidya. Okay. So that's why vidya and avidya words we got to understand. Okay. So avidya doesn't mean that you don't know this world. You just have desires. Worldly desires, personal desires. Got to have this. Can't live without it. Want to achieve that. Okay. So diligently we have to first learn it, then work on ourselves. Okay. So we'll see that these two words, different ways he's explaining now. So sambhuti and asambhuti, these are also similar words. So vidya is sambhuti, avidya asambhuti. Okay, so we got to not get lost into the terminology, just try to understand it properly. Let's look at verse number 13 today. Anyat ev ahu sambhavat, anyat ahu asambhavat, iti shushrum dhiranam yen tat vichak chakshire. Anyat means different. Ev means definitely. Ahu, they say. Who say? These wise people say. These rishis, they say. Sambhavat, from the manifest. Anyat, different. Ahu, they say. Asambhavat, from the unmanifest. Iti means thus, shu shrum. We have heard Dhira Nam of the wise. Ye means who, na means to us. Tat means that, Vichakshire explained. One thing they say is verily obtained from the worship of the manifest. Okay. Another thing they say from the worship of the unmanifest. Thus have we heard from the wise who have explained that to us. Okay. So it's manifest and unmanifest word is what? We learned about this earlier. Manifest is with a form. Unmanifest is formless. We are worshipping. We see that worship with the form. But with the form, if we have the avidya also, we are worshipping the form because of for the fulfillment of certain desires, or we are worshipping the formless. And sometimes the worship of the formless could be with the desires too. So ultimately is we got to see whether our own growth is happening or not. Otherwise we are just hanging in there. Some days we are asking for the things and the other days, sure, we have reached to that. So overall, are we reaching towards that unmanifest or not? No desires. Loving God for the sake of loving God. So in these verses, just make sure that you remember what has been taught earlier also. Only then these verses make sense. So this verse alone can really make you more confused. What is he talking about? So continuation of this in verse number 14. Sambhutim cha vinasham cha ya tat ved ubhyegam sa vinashena mrityum tirtvaha sambhutya amritam ashnute. Sambhutim, impersonal Godhead. Cha means and, vinasham, personal God. Like a destruction. Vinasham. Ya means who, tat means that, Ved means knows, Upyagam both, Saha means together. Vinashen by personal God, Mrityum death, Tirtva crossing, Sambhutya impersonal Godhead, Amritam immortality, Ashnute obtains or enjoys. He who worships the impersonal Godhead and the personal God together overcomes death. Overcomes death does not mean that this physical body does not die. That means you understand who you are. You have experienced the real part of you, the essence of you, which by definition can never die. So he who worships the impersonal God and the personal God together overcomes death through the worship of the personal and obtains immortality through the worship of the impersonal. So in other words, there's no contradiction between manifest and unmanifest, between a form and a formless. You have to just understand by worshipping, what are you doing? What is the purpose of worship? So just like in the last group of the verses, he talked about vidya and avidya. Now it's a personal and impersonal. Okay, so vidya and avidya. So sambhutim and asambhutim. So controversy between bhakti and gyan. These Vedic rishis, they say that controversy is useless. It's a hollow. And that's what's suggested in this mantra. That these two are not contradictory, but they are complementary. So rituals can be done with a form, because in order to offer, you need to see something. Even when you look at the Guru, you touch the Guru, you serve the Guru, there is a form. But the same seeker sits in a meditation, higher meditation, attains the formless. So that's why I said there's no contradiction. Okay, we need to practice both of them. Both of them. There's a time to do the rituals and there's a time to just feel oneness, the God which is everywhere. Because by definition, form cannot be everywhere. But the formless is everywhere. So devotion to a personal God with a form and name is as much important for the higher meditation. Okay, so sometimes we just like to put other people, we think that we are better because we believe in an impersonal God or formless God. No, they're equally important. So we have to just remember here we have to create the intensity of love for God. So intense meditation or intense rituals, whichever we can use to develop this relationship, this bond between us and that higher. By doing this intelligent synthesis of bhakti and jnana together. And the result will be this, what he is saying, that obtains immortality. That is the result. Immortality. Amritam. See, Amritam Ashnute. So a mere meditation upon the absolute in itself, sure, it can give you a subjective experience of the self, but still a jivan mukta state, that means you are still living in this world, cannot be peaceful and tranquil without a firmly held this bhakti also. That's why you see whether the life of a Shankaracharya ji or whether the life of some other Gyanis, ultimately they moved towards this bhakti of the form also. Okay, so unshakable prem, unshakable love we got to develop. And that can happen with the devotion, with the shraddha for the Lord. So that's why I'm saying that both need to be practiced together. So recognize Sambhuti and Sambhav as meaning the birth of the new spiritual life. Sambhav. Okay. The birth of the spirituality in you. And Asambhuti and Vinasham is referring to the cessation and the destruction. And what are we destroying here? We are destroying the vasanas. This is the destruction. The total destruction of the entire existing vasanas. That is our goal here. Okay? So, annihilation of all material wants, because vasanas are about the material. Okay? And when we destroy the vasanas, then what happens? There's no consequent birth anymore. We are born because we had the vasanas. Then there's no vasanas, there's no rebirth. Rebirth into this mortal plane. Only purpose we have taken the life over here in this beautiful human body is to finish off these vasanas, so that we don't come back here again, exhaust the existing vasanas. So Sambhav or Sambhuti He has chosen this word. It's like a becoming of a life divine, living a divine life, and asambhuti, the cessation of all undivine activities. So this mantra is also in the Vedic period was a prayer of a dying person on his deathbed. People would recite this, but when a person is dying, it doesn't make sense at that time. We got to understand this deep philosophy while we are living. Okay? So it's an ideal prayer for a selfless seeker, not for a dying person, for a selfless seeker. Okay? Now let's look at number 15. Hiranyen patren satyasya apihitam mukham tatutvam pushan apavrinu satya dharmaya drishtaya. Hiranya, that means golden, patren, the vessel, is like a bowl, patra. Satasya, of truth, apihitam, covered, mukham, face. Tat means that, tvam means you, pushan, sun, sun, that sun. Apavrinu, that means please open, do open. Satya dharmai, the practitioner of truth. Drishtaye, for beholding. So this Rishi is saying the face of truth is covered by a golden lid. Remove, O sun, that covering for me. The practitioner of truth, he says, I am a practitioner of the truth. Please get rid of this covering so that I may behold it. So this is a prayer done by a true seeker of the truth. And prayer is what actually? Prayer is an attempt of the ego center to attune itself to the supreme consciousness. So this individual is addressing the supreme consciousness with this mantra and praying it to sun. This is a very common thing in the Vedic mantras, praying to the sun. Without sun, we know there won't be any life on this earth. So they pray, they looked at the God in the form of sun also, God in the form of Agni also. So Pushan is it's like a Lord Sun has many names, and Pushan is just one of them. And Pushan means a nourisher, the sustainer. And the sun is the center of entire creation over here for us. So, but at the same time, our own nourisher, the sun up there, but then inside us, the Atma is the nourisher too. So it could mean that this seeker is praying to Atma too. So whether that Pushan, that sun, or the Pushan right over here. So the ego center is to die when it realizes its real nature. So the lower I has to die in order to recognize I am that big I, which is nothing but God. It is the last prayer of the active seeker, spiritual seeker, in his meditation seat. He is making a very divine effort and like trying to shake off his last layer of the ego. That's why he said it's a lid. And I can see it's a lid. Please help me open it up. So, and actually this lid is this is a matter. It's like a world of matter becomes a golden lid, and it hides the real illumination or the shine, the brilliance, whatever that truth is. See, truth is behind the lid. So the seeker is saying, please help me lift this lid, because I am at the door of the truth. He's knocking, he's demanding to the Pushan. Please open the door. Reveal yourself. I don't have any worldly desires. All I want to know is you, the God. And what right has the seeker to demand from the Supreme? Can we demand? He is demanding and he says, I am the practitioner of the truth. That's where I'm getting this right. If somebody is not practicing this and says, please open this, no, he says, I am practitioner of the truth. I know what my goal is. Very path of truth is laid over with the truth at every step. Okay? So continued love and dedicated loyalty gives to the lover a certain secret authority over his beloved. Okay, authority. And that's what this seeker is saying, I have that authority. Okay, with the confidence, the same thing we saw when Arjun asked Lord Krishna, sure you have explained everything to me. I've seen it. Show it to me. Show it to me. Okay, so with his own inner nobility, in the infinite kindness, when you know that my beloved can do it for me, then you can insist also. So seeker's beloved is God, the Guru. So this power to command comes to him as a privilege of love, authority of faith, and sanctioned by the moral dignity. If we are walking on the path of the morality only, then we can ask. And as a result of his chaste life of tapasya. Okay? Satya dharmaya drishtaya. Okay, that's what these last three words, Satya dharmaya drishtaya, very important, very deep words over here. So if we are walking on the path of dharma, if we have that kind of intensity, if we are so active, if we are so detached from this material gains, sure, we can command. And we should say, God, I am on this path. I want to see you. How come I don't see you? Remove this ignorance, remove this veil, please. Because of this veil, I cannot see you. Okay? So this verse is a very powerful verse. Try to understand each word and just draw the deep message from this, and then ultimately practice this. So Hiranyan Patren Satyasya Apihitam Mukham Tatatvam Pushan Apavrinu Satya Dharmaya Drishtaya. So this veil is like no matter what we see water, we see trees, we see birds. There's the Atma in all of them. How come we don't see the Atma? This morning I was watching, people are in the boats fishing. They enjoy that, but they are missing. There's a life in that fish. There's an Atma. which is the same as wine. And we feel happy when we catch it. That means that the lid over there is so thick. That the lid of ignorance. That is the veiling. When we don't recognize the life in others. It could be human beings, it could be animals, it could be birds, it could be plants. When we just destroy them. Okay. पूषण एक ऋषे यम सूर्य प्रजापत्ये विहु रश्मीन समूह तेजः यत ते रूपम कल्याणतमं तत ते पश्यामि य असौ पुरुषास. पूषण, again, O son, एक ऋषे, एक means soul, one, rishi, seer, O soul seer. Yam Surya, controller of Surya, Prajapati, the son of the Prajapati, creator. Vyuhu, dispose. Disperse, like it's just like a view. Okay, Rashmin, raise. Samuh, gather up. Tejaha, light. Yat means what? Te means you. Rupam, form. Kalyantamam, most auspicious. Tat means that, te means you, pashyami, I see. Ya means who, asau, this, purushaha. Sa means he, aham, I, asmi, am. O Pushan, the nourisher, the sun, O soul seer, O controller of all, Surya, son of Prajapati. So creator is the one who created the sun also. So son of the Prajapati, disperse your rays and gather up your burning light. I behold your glorious form. The Purush within you. Purush means the Atma, the soul. So in the sun, there is an Atma, part of God. The Purush within you, he am I. That means there's no difference in the Purush in you and the Purush in me, even in the sun. So this is like a addressing when our ego is dying and we need to kill this ego. To whom exactly you are addressing? This is what is mentioned in this verse. Before that, we don't see it. Before that, before our ego dies, we are seeing only me and mine, bigger and smaller. But when that ego is dying, this is what the prayer which comes out of this Rishi's mouth. So he is seeing the Atma equally everywhere. Nourisher, soul seer, that means omniscient, the controller of all, etc. It's like a self-evident in these words that this person's, this Rishi's ego is dissolving. So according to this prayer, the prayerful ego, it's completely integrated with the inner personality of the individual. It could be at the time of the meditation. It could be at the time of the prayer. Mind and the intellect have been transcended. It's like a meeting with that truth. This truth is becoming a subjective experience for this rishi, this yogi, this seeker. Lord Sun was also the guru of the seer who wrote this. And if you remember, I told you in the beginning, Yajnavalkya was the seer, compiler. He compiled actually uh, Ishavasya Upanishad also, but there have been many, many other Yajurveda Sahitas he compiled. And this seer Yajnavalkya, so he could be talking about his guru. He could be talking about that sun god. But there's no difference though. At the Atma level, it's all same. So, so the sun is the greatest nourisher, disinfector, great filler who fills life with flavor. Without sun, we cannot have a life. By the grace of sun and by the grace of Guru also. So that's why, in the worldly sense, sure, sun is needed. In the spiritual sense, we need the Guru. Guru is the nourisher. That's why I say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwara. Guru is the one who puts these thoughts in our mind. Guru is the one who nourishes these thoughts. That God is one. We are all one. And Guru is the one who dispels all the ignorance also. So at the end, when he says, Aso Purusha hi aham asmi, he and I, the Purush within thee. This is not just a simple declaration, it is experience. Experience that it's only one. They are not two, they are not many. Okay, so, and he's crying it out loud actually. He's crying that he is not body conditioned individual that he thought he was earlier during his ignorance. Now with the wisdom, this has dawned, this realization has dawned that he is nothing but the pure awareness, that the one resides in him, the Purush, the Atma. So before the final experience of oneness, he am I, we have been shown how there is a lower state of realization. That means, I behold your glorious form. Because there's still a little ego left. Sure, there's a little experience, but ego is left there. This state is called Savikalp Samadhi, according to Patanjali. Okay? So, but then the sadhana continues. And the final stage proceeds towards the final stage of the total end of the ego, when the seeker will rediscover himself to be the sought. There's no difference between the seeker and the sought, the supreme self, and the experience of oneness. That experience is called Nirvikalp Samadhi. Nirvikalp. Okay? So the knower of Brahm becomes Brahm. It's often repeated by the students. Man cannot see God, but God, when we reach up to that, then we are not a man alone. We are not a human being. We understand, then we can see God. It's an experiential state. That's why they say Godhood is a positive state which can be lived and experienced. It's not just an imagination. But unfortunately, not by the human being, not by a man, but a God alone. So that means you have become God at that point. Aham Brahmasmi. It is because the man who realizes Godhood is no more a man. That's why we call these people God on this earth. Okay? So ego is gone. I am the Purush in thee, Purushaham Asmihi. So, see, earlier, if you go back, mantra number 3, it was said that those who identify with their body, mind, and intellect are destroyers of the self. So if we identify with this material layers of ours, we are Atmahanta. That's the word he used. That means you are not moving towards your reality, the essence, ever bound into the wheel of change, jana. See, only a handful of verses, but the whole philosophy of life. What will take us down and what will raise us up is given in these verses over here. Okay, so when such an individual through dedicated activities, karam, purifies himself through renunciation, ten tyajet, only then you come to enjoy all this. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. So all this was mentioned in those previous verses. So renunciation is important. Understanding the whole life is important. So he says, I am no more the one who destroyed the experience of the self, Atma Hana, and lived in, he recognizes that I lived in the blinding darkness, Andhamtama, in a sunless realm, a Surya Loka. All this was part of the earlier studies. But I am indeed the self, Purusha Aham Asme. So I forgot who I was. But now, with the help of all this, I know what I am. So, first, the meditator cried out that I am seeing this auspicious nature. And he hushes himself into the silence and he says, He am I. And when the ego has ended, his roar becomes, I am he. Because there is still a lingering I in there. But when the ego has completely ended, the experience is that universal reality, Brahm am I. These are the three distinct stages of evolution. He am I am he. Okay. Brahm am I. There are only 2 verses left, 17 and 18. Let's finish them. So, and then next week we will start Bhagavad Gita again. Okay. So, number 17. Vayu anilam amritam ath idam bhasam antagam shariram om krato smar kritgam smar krito smar kritgam smar. Vayu, air. Anilam, the air. See, anilam, universal air. And the vayu is a personal, like a prana. Okay. Amritam, immortal. At means now, idam means this, basman antagam. Reduced to ashes. Bhasam is ash. Antagam, at the end, all ashes. Shariram, body. Om, krato. Krato means my mind. Smar, remember. Kritagam, what you did, like your deeds. Smar, remember. Krato smar, kritagam smar. Again, repetition of that. Let my pran merge into the all-pervading air, the universal air, pran. Let them go there. Now let this body be burnt by fire to ashes. Oh, my mind, remember, remember what you did. Oh, remember what you did. After the complete subjective experience of the reality during the meditation, when the individualized ego center has come to experience, he, the Purusha, within the am I. This is the condition of such a perfected master at the time of his death. When the ego center has merged itself into the supreme awareness, this is the attitude towards his possessions. Its own envelopments, its own layers of the body, pran, mind, intellect, etc. So these questions have been answered by this great rishi in this stanza. So after the realization of his self, when he faces death happily, as he would face life and its changing experiences. So to his death is not a tragic culmination, but it is a joyous beginning of an immortal existence. No sorrowful leaving. Mind is the one which did all this. He said, remember what you did. Kritam Samar. In fact, this is a very powerful saying, a reminder to ourselves, even when we don't have the subjective experience, something happens to us. My Guruji used to say that often enough. Kritam Samar. Remember, you must have done something. Nothing happens without a reason. Kritam Samar. Just two words I heard it from his lips all my life. Kritam Samar. And this Rishi is saying towards the end, this seeker is saying it. So his only cry would be that his pran should merge with all the pervading air. His body must go back to the dust from which it had come. So he himself is saying, let the pran merge with the universal pran in the atmosphere, because that's where they came. The body came from the earth. Let it go back. Bhasma Antam. And as regards to his mind, he cries, may you remember what you did in the past. And for him, actually, it really means the great achievement. This rishi could reach to this level with the help of the mind. So he says, remember, my mind, what kind of a supreme experience you have gotten. Don't forget that. Because after all, our memory is always about our own most intense experiences. The superficial experiences we can forget, but the intense experiences we don't. So this seeker's intense experience was a feeling of that oneness with God. Aham Brahmasmi. So he says, oh mind, remember, remember. It only means that even at the moment of departure, let not our mind be distracted by any other thought. Because if a mind wants to think about what you are leaving behind physically, don't do that. So it's a prayer to the mind. Just remember that intense experience which you had, that aham brahmasmi. Let us get ourselves established in the continuous experience of that moment of fulfillment. As a human creature, every moment we got to remember that. This should be the most intense experience for us. Then the last verse he says, Agne Naya Supataha Raye Asman Vishwani Dev Vayunani Vidwan Yuyodhi Asmat Juhuranam Enaha Bhuyishtan Te Namah Uktim Vidhem. Agne, O Agne, Naya lead Supatha by a good path, Supath, Raye wealth, Asman, us, Vishwani, all, Dev, O God, Vayunani, ways, Vidwan, the knower. Yuyodhi, remove, Asmat from us, Juhuranam, crookedly attracting. Enaha, sin, Bhuyishtham, best. Te means to you, Namah Uktim, prayer, Vidhem means offer. O Agni, lead us to wealth by a good path. As you know, O God, all the many ways. So that means there's so many paths. He says, please take me towards you from the best path. Remove the crooked attraction of sin from us. We offer you our best salutations. So again, this Agni means his guru. So this Rishi, even at the level of that, after the experiencing oneness with the God, he's praying to his guru that please take me towards that. The path which you know. Sometimes we dictate to the guru, teach us this. But the real thing is that we got to surrender, Guru, whatever path you want us to follow, just you know better. We really don't know. Take us the best path for us. See, we have forgotten these secrets of intense studies. So when we study Upanishads like this, then our mind says, yeah, this is the reality. We don't know which path is better. Our Guru knows. Surrender to Guru. And then I'll do my part. So this is a concluding verse of this Upanishad, which represents the last wave of the thought in it. Okay, so both after this, the teacher and the disciple, what they do a Shanti part together. That's what happens. Okay, so that is very important part of the sadhana. The deep, ardent devotion of a personal God. So Agni to the personal God, the Guru was a personal God for this Rishi. And he is saying, it's not the wealth of this material world I need, the riches of the spiritual seeker. This is what that Rishi wanted. So wealth word do not, because our attention when we hear the wealth, it just goes towards the material wealth. But this understanding of the wealth over here means bliss or mukti or beatitude. This is he is requesting. And at the end he says, we offer you our best salutations. Salutation really means we surrender to you. We surrender all the false conceptions in us so that our heart is cleansed. It is prepared for the highest. When it says ten uktim vidhen, see namaha. Namaha means actually, if you break that word namaha, na mam, not mine. Just like when we do the havan also, idam namam, this is not mine. So namaha word really means that no more am I, this is mine. It's a voluntary self-offering, total and complete at the altar of the higher. Okay, sure. I mean, we say that namaskar, this namaha many times, but without having this kind of a feeling. So when namaha, when we do the namaskar to God, in our mind we should say that God, nothing is mine; it's all yours. It's like an active, dynamic, spiritual giving us and becoming into a new awareness when we do namaskar like that. That makes us ready for the further growth. Okay, so this ends this short but very deep Upanishad. So let me do the Shanti mantra, and then we have few minutes, one bhajan, and if you have any questions, so let's do that. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om.